Welcome back, everybody, to Chapter 3 of Unreal Engine Beginner Tutorial Series. In this chapter, we are going to cover the basics of modeling in Unreal Engine.
Now, we talked about this before. Modeling is not the primary function of Unreal Engine 5. It is a software where you bring in assets from other softwares and marketplaces and build giant worlds. But modeling is still a core function of any 3D world. And so Unreal Engine, Epic Games, the guys behind Unreal Engine, decided to create a modeling tab and a modeling tool set just for Unreal Engine so people can create assets within the engine itself. And although a lot of the tutorials we found online do not cover modeling, we decided to create everything in engine, at least for the basics of it, the spaceship design, the hangar design. And so we're going to jump right into the basics of modeling today. And Farhad, do you see the number of views on this video? Some people already gave up on Chapter 3.
Oh my God, guys, come on.
But I got to say, if you survived until now, you're an OG. Let's keep going. So first thing we're going to want to do is just look at what we got. We got a bunch of things in our scene. We want to empty it out. So let's go ahead and use the delete key. Just select the cube, delete these particles. I'm just going to go ahead and shift select on all of them and then delete them as well because I don't need them. We can go ahead and keep our lighting and our floor the same. It's all right. And we're going to move all the way back. Now, the modeling tab is supposed to be up here, right? If you go ahead and click this drop down right here on the top left side, you'll see that there is a selection menu. This is what we have by default because we're selecting things and moving things in our scene. Now, if you were to go ahead and create a landscape, you'll be using the landscape tool, right? It'll change your viewport a little bit slightly, and you'll be able to create a giant world. There's other things like creating fractures, so breaking things, or animation for the control rig of different characters that you'll get to move around. But there's no modeling tool. And in order to enable it, we'll need to actually teach you guys how to use plugins. We're going to go to Edit. We're going to go to Plugins, right? Right here, we will see all of the plugins that are available for us to enable, right? And if you look to the right side, you'll see that they're all by Epic Games. So these are all Epic Games' own plugins that you can add to the engine. And there's a lot of things that you can use later on depending on what you're creating. What we're looking for is modeling. So we're going to search for modeling, right? There's 3 options. We're only going to need the middle one, Modeling Tools Editor Mode. And you can see it's in beta. And we'll find out why, because it kind of breaks sometimes. So go ahead and check that. It's going to ask you to click yes. So click yes. And you have to restart your engine. So we're going to do that and be right back. Save your scene as well. All right, we are back with our Unreal Engine open. It's already restarted. Sometimes you'll get these different pop-ups on the right side. It's asking you to update your project. We always go ahead and do it, so just click update. And right now we are in a different level. It's the main level. Let's go ahead and go to our spaceship level that we've created to start modeling, right? Now, we can go ahead and go to the modeling tab right here because right now it's available. It's right there, Farhad. So we can go ahead and select it. There are some shortcuts like shift and a specific number. So you can go ahead and use that. We never do. So modeling. Perfect. Right now you have the modeling tab open. Before we jump right into the actual modeling of objects, we do want to talk about one thing, which is really important. Before starting any project, we talked to Clint Punisher. We brought him on the podcast. If you guys don't know, we actually have a Bad Decisions podcast happening.
They didn't know?
They didn't know?
Oh my God. Every week we bring inspiring guests to talk to them about their experiences, about their journey, and we post it on our YouTube channel. We interviewed Blender Guru.
Yeah, the OG, the GOAT of beginner tutorials, right?
Yes.
The donut tutorial. Shout out. We even brought in Clint, the Punisher, and he was talking about and he was giving us a tip as to what all of his winners of the 3D competitions had in common. And he said that they always start with references. So it's very important that you already know what you're trying to create. For us, we're using a software just like all the other 3D artists called PureRef. It's free. And it basically overlays on top of your screen as you're creating things. And right now, we've already dragged and dropped Google images into our PureRef. So just to show you guys an idea as to what we have for our references, we have a bunch of different hangars and spaceships from Star Wars. So some are fan-made, like this one, I believe is fan-made, or from the games. And some are from the movie itself, right? Like this or like this. We really like the hexagon shape, hexagon shape. I never get it right. Hexagon shape for the spaceship. So that's what we're trying to create. And we actually have photos of our own spaceship that we created the first time in Unreal Engine. So we're going to be following this exact look to model our scene.
Let's go.
Now, Farhad, we're just going to pop this to the bottom right. We're not going to need that right now. Let's go ahead and talk about the basics of the modeling tool. Now, Farhad, what do you think about a modeling tool right now? Just looking at it.
Overwhelming. I'm panicking.
Okay, don't panic. Calm down.
Okay.
Calm down.
Okay.
I'll hold your hand. Hold my hand. Okay, no, I can't. I need to use the mouse. You can hold their hand. Okay, so on the left side, we are presented with a toolbar, the vertical one, and that is the general category. When you select each of them, then you'll see on the right side, our options change. And within those options, you have sometimes even more options. Now, in today, we're going to talk about some of the basics and the ones that are going to be most commonly used. Later on, towards the latter chapters of this tutorial series, we'll actually come back to the modeling tool and play around with different functions. Some of them are going to be really useful. Even if you're not creating the objects from scratch, you can bring in, let's say, a spaceship from outside, but make changes to it here. So starting with the Create tab, this is the first one we're going to start with. You have the primitive shapes that you could bring by the Place Actors panel right here. But instead, this time, you'll have actually some extra options that you can change. For instance, if you want to go ahead and drag and drop a cube, actually, I'm not going to drag it. I can drag it, so I'll just click it. Now, the cube is following my cursor, so I can just go ahead and place it anywhere I want in my scene. And then I have all these options I can change, like the width, the depth, the height. And then there are other options like the subdivisions. Subdivisions are basically saying how many layers I want to cut my cube into. Not actually slice it, but in terms of its wireframe. So in order to see the wireframe, Farah, what do we do?
Show wireframe, check mark.
There you go. So I'm going to click it. And I'm looking at the wireframe right now. So these are basically the building blocks that hold my cube. Every shape in the 3D world has a wireframe, right? And these wireframes are what create those shapes in the 3D software. Right now, as you can see, these are basically triangles. As you can see, the triangle shape. I'm going to just increase the subdivision so you know what I'm talking about. So if I increase this slider, look at what is happening to my cube. There are a lot more vertices. These are the vertices. So these little dots here. And then the lines are edges. And then the edges and the points, the vertices, connect together to make up a face. And so right now, for this same cube, the same shape, we have so many more edges, vertices, and faces representing it. And what that does is it causes our model to go from low poly, which is low polygons, to high poly. When you have a high poly model, you can then go ahead and deform it even better, deform it smoother, and you can bend it smoother. If you were to bend this, we have a lot more detail, so we can get a nice curved shape. Whereas if you just had 4 edges, let's say, you can really not bend it anymore because you don't have the detail. That's what subdivisions are for. We're not going to need it right now. So let's move on. If you want to actually create this shape, you have to make sure you click accept. So anything that you do in the modeling tab, you want to go ahead and click accept. If you forget to do that, none of the changes you made actually work. So hit accept, and just like that, we have our new box, our cube in the scene. We don't need it anymore. Let's go ahead and delete that. There are other shapes that you can bring in. For instance, if you bring in a sphere, I want to show you exactly what the subdivisions do. So if you go ahead and bring in a default sphere that Unreal Engine has, let's go ahead and compare them side by side and see what happens. So if you get close here, Farah, can you see something?
I can see the edges.
You can see the edges. So this is not perfectly smooth.
Yeah.
Do you want your sun to have edges?
No.
No. So if you're making a sun, you want it to be perfectly smooth. You do that by increasing the subdivisions on your model, right? We don't need this. I'm going to cancel it. I'm going to delete this.
What is stairs?
Very interesting. Game engine, right?
Oh, okay.
Game engine. You want to build worlds quickly. So we have access to stairs. You don't want to make stairs yourself. You don't want to model them. You can actually use the stair function right here. And Farhad, there are a lot of different types of stairs we can have. Check this out. So we have the linear, we have floating, we have curved, we have spiral, right? And all of these settings, sorry, I hit the drop down. If you go to floating, for example, this is my favorite. I can go ahead and change the number of steps to however many I want. The steps width so they can be super wide for like a big cathedral or something. And then I can even change the height. Maybe it's going to Zeus's palace, you know? And the step depth. Look at that. Super cool, right? I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. And Farhad, I want to show you something really cool. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, this one is my favorite. This one is called Cube Grid. And if you're a gamer, This is going to be very familiar for you. Like, I believe Minecraft or Roblox or some games like that might have similar functions. I now have spawned a grid on the floor, and I can go ahead and click drag to select an area. And then using these shortcuts on the left side, if I go ahead and push and pull, so E and Q, I can go ahead and quickly build a platform. And guess what? Just like referencing, there's something else in 3D that is super handy. If you want to go ahead and create a scene, a world, right? And you have multiple houses and apartments, before actually bringing in all those confusing, complex assets, the best thing to do is to block out your scene. Set up your camera, block out your scene, and know exactly what you're trying to create. And so this is what Cube Grid is good for. I can even go ahead and change my blocks per step to something like 3, so I can build things quicker. So check this out. E, now I have this nice platform. I want to maybe actually make it taller here. Yeah, a tower. And then I can go ahead and extend this even further. And just like that, if I go ahead and click accept, I have now created the base of my level. So if this was the scene I wanted to create where there's a staircase and then you can go on top and then there's a tower, I now have that. And then I can use Control L, check my lighting, and see what my world actually looks like.
Wow.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, Farhad, I think we covered all of the basics of creation in the modeling tool. There are some other options. We're not going to cover it right now. We're going to go straight into the function that we need to create our
spaceship.
Our Hangar Spaceship, right? So let's go ahead and quickly delete this. We're not going to need it anymore. Hit delete. Now, the one option that we're going to use is called Extrude Path. Now, don't think to yourself that we magically know the perfect way to do this. Farhad, how many times have you created this?
This is the result of more than 10 times recreating the spaceship, failing, crashing, and now we're here.
Yes. So this is not the first time we're doing this. So don't think we are some sort of magicians who magically know how to do the spaceship. Okay, we don't. Now in Path Extrude, we have this grid that's going to help us draw out our shape more accurately. But the problem is right now, I actually can't use it. And you'll see why in a moment. What we have to do is use our cursor to place down points on this grid. And these points will be connected to each other using lines. So I'll just draw it out for you so you'll see. And then once we select the last point, we bring it back to the origin. That's where we can actually pull out our shape. I'm going to hit escape to undo everything. Just to show you guys how you can actually snap to the grid. Farah, what can we do?
We should use the snapping tool that we told you guys in the previous chapter.
So if we go to the top right here, using the snapping tool for our transform, for our movement, right? The first one, not this one, not the scale, not the rotate. We can actually turn this to a larger number, like 100. We've already tested this before. That's why we know the number. And what happens is that the grid actually aligns with the bigger one that we have set up here. And if you notice, that little dot that was attached to my cursor is now only snapping to the points on this grid so that we can draw out an accurate shape. If you change this to 500, Farah, what do you think will happen?
Every 5 grid, you will move every 5.
Like 5 squares, right? Yeah. So it becomes bigger. And this is for a bigger shape.
Exactly.
Right? So we want to go back to 100. We know that works for us. And Farhad, this is the exact shape we're trying to draw, right? The hexagon.
Yes.
We need to draw this precise shape. So how do we do it?
Let's start with the top corner. Put your cursor right there. Yes. So we have to put that in our grid and start drawing.
So how do we do that?
Okay, let's
So this is our origin, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we go up.
3 units go up, 3 units to the right. Yes, we are exactly right there.
So this is our first point.
Exactly.
Again, we've tested this multiple times with like 4 squares, 3 squares. This seems to be the perfect fit for us. You can follow us exactly. All right, so this is our first point. So left mouse button, click, and now we have the line. So we have to go now right down 3 squares, right?
Yes.
So right down, so 1 square, 2 squares, 3 squares, click again.
Yes.
And then left down 3 squares, right?
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3.
Exactly.
So this is what you should have right now. Look around the scene. You can move around. Perfect. Now we just have to follow the shape. So we have to go
6 to the left.
1, 2, 3. So now we're in the middle. Exactly. 1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
Now we have this one right here, right?
Yes.
This one right here. And now we have to go 3 up left.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Do the exact mirror to the other side.
So right up left, right up. So 1, 2, 3.
Yes. And it should be 6 in the middle now.
Perfect. So now all we have to do is just go back to the origin. When we hit the left click button, we have now completed our first part, the shape. And then don't touch anything. You'll see why in a moment. So once we click this, Now, if you move our mouse, what is it asking us to do?
Choose the width.
So Farhad, right now there's a problem because I can only change the width to a few different units. I want to move freely.
It's our snapping tool again. Turn it off.
Okay, so if we go all the way to the top, turn this off, look at what happens.
Yay.
It becomes smooth again because we're not snapping anymore, right? We don't need the snapping right now at this point. I mean, maybe you do if you're trying to be precise. We want to just choose a width ourselves.
By any chance, if in your system it is not rounded corners, you can go on the left and turn rounded corners on. You can turn it off now.
Yes.
See how it looks.
This is by default going to look like this, but because we've done this before, our one already had rounded corners on. So while you're actually in the middle of this procedure, you can go ahead and turn this to rounded corners, and then you'll see that it's automatically rounded. We can now, in the next step, go ahead and choose how round we want it to be. Now, I'll just have to let you guys know, in case you have already changed some of the settings, like interactive, what these settings do, we've done this before, it makes the slider available so that you don't use your mouse and cursor to control the size. You will use the slider. There is currently a bug with this where if you turn it to fixed, it will crash your engine.
Don't touch it.
So don't do that. Go with interactive right now, right? So if we use this width, Farhad, I'd say that's about right.
I think that's good.
Okay, cool. So I click my left mouse button, and right now, since we have rounded corners on, it is going to ask us to tell the engine how round we want it to be. And we want it to be really round.
Yes.
Right? So we're going to max this out, and then we're going to click again. The last thing we have to do, I'm just going to move my mouse, is if we bring our mouse up and down, we are actually choosing the extrusion, the height of our shape. So I would say somewhere about here. Farhad, what do you think?
Yeah, we're going to change the size later anyways.
Okay, so perfect. We will now do our final click to prepare our mesh. Boom. So guys, this is precisely how you create your hangar. Congratulations, you've done the basic shape. I will just quickly, for anybody that was confused, show you guys, since this is still there, I'm going to make my mesh complete. Check this out. So complete means confirmed, my shape is created. Extrude Path has a few things that you can do. So remember, when you create your shape, right, don't think that you're immediately done. You're going to first select the width, then you're going to select how round you want it to be, and you're going to extrude it, right? So there's 3 clicks involved, as you saw earlier. All right, we're going to Control Z. We don't need that anymore. We have our shape. Let's go back to the selection mode. And now, Farhad, let's rotate this guy, bring it back to the normal position because no one's walking against gravity in here. So let's rotate this by hitting E, 90 degrees, and it's perfect, right? So the thing I'd like to do is first understand how big our spaceship is. Because Farhad, we have absolutely no idea if this is the right size.
No, based on our research, we should go with the numbers of around 180 meters in length and around 30 to 40 meters in height.
Okay, so in order to actually measure something in Unreal Engine, you probably can't use the perspective mode that we're using right now because...
Use your finger.
Let me try. No, that doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. I mean, you can try. I bet you can try, but don't do it. You want to go out to a flat out angle, right? Right now, we're watching this with a perspective. And if you want to confirm that, check this out. Top left bar, the 3 lines, that is just a few settings that you can enable for your viewport, right? Such as show FPS. Like this is just a tip we want to give you guys right now. Click that. I always click it in the very beginning of our project. On the right side, you'll now see if you click your viewport, left click, you'll see
120 frames.
And it's capping. It actually can go to more. It's just capping it because it doesn't want to go crazy. But that means our scene is extremely light and our graphics card is extremely powerful. 4090, baby. So you can always enable that to see if your scene is getting too heavy or not. But actually, the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is because right now we are controlling our field of view. It's at 90. So if I were to change this, you'll see that I'm changing the field of view of our camera. So right now it's super wide. And you can edit like this. Like if this is your preference, you can do that. I'm going to take this back to 90. But the reason why I showed you guys this is because with this field of view, it's not going to be precise for you to measure anything. That's why we're going to another option right here, which is perspective. This is the default view, but you can change this to an orthographic view, which is basically top, front, right, left, bottom, all that stuff. So if you change it to something like left, you will see, I'm going to change this to wireframe. This should automatically change to wireframe. I don't know why it's not. Don't worry about the warning basically in an orthographic view, your sky and everything doesn't render. So that's why you're supposed to go to wireframe mode. Wireframe mode is basically showing you guys the skeleton of your meshes. So that's another option now. I guess you'll have to learn it. In lit, this is where you see everything in colors with the materials, with the light reflecting. We're going to go to wireframe mode. This is the mode you want to be in by default when you're going to orthographic views. This happens all the time. I don't know why in this time it didn't. Again,
it's good. They learn how to change to wireframe.
Exactly. There's a lot more modes. We're going to cover all of that later on, so don't worry. Right now, in the left side, right, this is the side of our hangar. We can view it from the top. Let's zoom out because I can't see it. This is our hangar from the top. We can view it from other angles if you like the front, and we'll get to measure it from the front. So how do we actually measure it? Well, the button for that is on your middle mouse. Click right here. If you just go to your desired location to begin measuring, somewhere like here, the floor, we want to measure it all the way to the ceiling. We'll just hold our middle mouse button, and then you'll see that a ruler appears. We'll just drag it all the way to the top. And Farhad,
we need to change the measurement units.
Yeah, right now it's like 515. That's centimeters.
Yes.
So how do we change it to meters?
Let's go to editor preferences.
Okay, cool. So this is the time where we tell you guys about these settings, right? There's two main settings that you can change in Unreal Engine, one of which is screaming right at you at the top right corner, and you're probably asking us, why haven't you told me about this yet? Well, because it wasn't time for it. It's still not time for it, by the way. Just want to show you that your project settings is right here. There's a bunch of other settings that you can change. The project settings is concerned with things like rendering, right, for this specific project. And we'll be touching this later on. But for now, we're going to go to the other settings that you can change, which is in editor preferences. The editor preferences is mostly for your interface, right? Your shortcuts, things of that sort. And what we're looking for on the left side, there are the categories, and on the right side are the details of each category. We want to go to viewport. That's what we're looking for. Viewports, right here, click on it. The settings here change. We're going to scroll down until we see measuring tool units. We're going to change the centimeters.
2 meters.
2 meters.
Yes.
And we're going to escape this. We don't need it anymore. And right now, if you go ahead and use the same middle mouse button, pull it up.
Oh my God, only 5 meters.
Is that 50 or 5?
5.
Wait. Oh, that's 5?
That's 5.
That's so small.
5.1. Yeah, make it bigger.
That's so small.
What is our length?
Okay, let's go to left and then try to measure the length. Okay, from the front to the back. 10 meters?
God,
this is the smallest hangar ever.
Yes.
Nothing's going to fit in there. Okay.
Okay, let's make it bigger.
Okay, so in order to make this bigger, we don't even have to escape the wireframe and the left, perspective view that we have. Sorry, left orthographic view that we have. We can just select our hangar right here. And Farhad, let's just use the scale, right? To what?
8.
8?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. Just make sure you have your lock right here, the lock selected, right? It's locked. Your lock is already locked so that you're increasing the ratio of all of the axes at the same time. So Farah, what was the number? The
8.
Magic number? 8? Okay,
Yes.
let's see if this works. 8. Boom.
Yoo-hoo.
That's huge.
Let's check the height.
Let's pull it up. Pull it up right here. And let's see, first of all, the length. Let's see what we got. So from the front to the back, 85.
80 meters, not bad.
Not bad. Okay, let's go to the front. I want the height to be around 40 meters. That's my desired height. 42. Not bad. Not bad. We can. Do you want to make it slightly bigger? Just slightly?
We can go for, now we are 8. Let's go for 9 or 10.
I think 9.5. Let's do 9.5. Okay. 9.5 should give us a length of 100,
meters,
which is good. And for the front side, we're getting a length, a height of 50,
meters.
which is perfect.
Let's go.
So we're going to go back to the perspective mode, right? Again, you can use these shortcuts like Alt-G. You can learn them. They're all there.
We never use it.
We never used it, but you can use it and be faster than us. But congratulations, you have now constructed your hangar and the size is perfect. This is a large hangar. And the thing is right now, you probably don't notice how big it is because you have nothing to compare it to. But don't worry, as we start bringing items into our scene, we're going to look at the scale and understand how big the hangar is. Now, naturally, once you get better at Unreal Engine, you'll be able to bring in items really quickly. What we like to do usually is just bring in a human character to scale to find out how big the place is. But right now, because we haven't gone into that yet, we don't have that comparison. But we're going to do it, so don't worry. Farah, the next thing I really like to do, and I always hate this, is changing the origin point and the pivot point of my object. Because right now, you see what happens? If we try to rotate this, it's rotating from the front, right? And I don't like that. And if I were to reset the location of this to bring it to the middle of my scene from these arrows, using these arrows, look at what happens. It comes to the middle, but then the front part is in the middle. And because the origin point is at also the middle part of my hangar, I get half of my hangar below ground level. I do not like that. So I'm going to go to Control-Z. And what I want to do is change my pivot point.
Let's do it in the modeling tab.
That's right. It is actually in the modeling tab. And that's why the modeling tab becomes really handy, right? And a lot of people need to start using it in Unreal. So if we go to the modeling tab right here, click modeling. And this time, whilst we have the hangar selected, we're going to go to X-form, right? And then we see something called Edit Pivot.
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 Pivot!
And when we go here, we have the option to manually change the location and rotation of our pivot point. So it's originally here. We can go ahead and move it using these sliders to anywhere we want, or hit Control-Z, undo. Use some of these already calculated positions by Unreal. And more often than not, they work really well. So it defines the center, bottom, top, left, right, back, front, and world origin of the mesh. But sometimes they might just be different. I'm just looking for the very edges of my mesh, right? And the one I'm looking for is actually in the middle bottom section. That's where I want my origin to be. So I'm going to try center. Center works, but it's in the middle. I can pull this down, but I want it to be exact. So we go to bottom, no, top, no, left, no, right, no, back, no, front.
That's it.
Front.
That's it. That
Front
is the winner.
is the one. Now, I actually see that it's literally at the very bottom here. I'm actually going to even pull it up and just bring it to the very surface. That's what I want. So I think this is perfect. So this is the middle floor level of my mesh. And right now that is going to be my origin. If I go ahead and hit accept, right, the origin is now changed. So if I were to rotate, it's rotating from the bottom middle part. And if I were to reset the location of my hangar, look at what happens. It comes to the precise world origin, the 0, 0, 0 of my X, Y, and Z. And that's what I usually like to do with my models. And plus, we wanted to look for an excuse to teach you guys how to edit your pivot points. Perfect.
Hold on. Did you guys know you can speed up your workflow by using Polycam's photogrammetry instead of modeling and texturing?
Yeah, you just snap a couple of photos and voila! Plus, your objects will automatically look photorealistic because they're actually real.
Shout out to Polycam for sponsoring this course and giving you guys 30% off their pro plan. Promo code and link in the description.
So Farhad, what is next?
We have to close one end of our hangar.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like
It's too open.
yeah, we have two open ends, and that's not good. So first thing we'd like to do is go ahead and hide this floor because it's unnecessary. You can go ahead and delete it if you want. And then what I like to do is just close off one end. So since the sun is just shining from here, let's close off this end. Now, you can go ahead and model this precisely and then have the end actually be part of the mesh. But since this is used for cinematic, even for games, I guess sometimes people do that, we can get kind of dirty with it and no one's going to even realize. We can just go ahead and bring in a cube and block off one side and then use material on that cube later on to act as the wall, right? So we don't have to make it part of the mesh. The wall can absolutely be separate to save us time. So we're going to go to Place Actors panel, and then we're going to go to Shape. We're going to spawn a cube, right? Drag it, and then bring it right here. It's fine if it's just sticking somewhere random. You can use the Reset button on the location to bring it to World Origin. And then, what can I press Farah to find this?
F.
F to focus.
Yeah.
It's perfectly set in the middle of our scene. So now we're going to move back. We're going to use the W key to bring out our transform gizmo, and then bring it all the way to the back here. And then we're going to go to R for
And make it big.
scale. And then we're going to make it big. So drag one axis. Perfect. Then we're going to drag the Z axis.
All the way.
Perfect. And then we're going to go to W, move this up, right?
A little bit more on the x-axis.
And then we're going to just move it up so that's somewhere in the middle. And then we're going to go back to R, and then we're going to scale it on this axis. So I made it big enough, Farhad, just so that I know it's covering everything, you know?
No light leaks.
Yeah, I don't want to, I just want to make sure there's no holes, you know, so that there's light coming through. That's why. So Control Z, and now I'm going to even make it a little bit deeper. Again, just for safety, I don't want any light leaks, right? Just make it a bit deeper like that. And then just
thick.
pull it in. That's thick. That's thick. But I think it's fine. I think it should be fine. And I'll just let you guys know, okay? Farhad, you know that some people might be, looking at a different design. They might have actually not chosen this shape, or maybe their shape looks slightly different. Maybe it's a bit longer or shorter. So in any case, you can just quickly hide this and then select your hanger. If you're unhappy with the length, just go to R and then just make it larger, right? You can do that. We're not going to do that because we're happy with what we got. We're happy with the size. Does size matter?
Yes,
it does. It does.
Yes, it
Absolutely does.
All the time.
Absolutely does. Control L just to move the lighting a little bit. And yeah.
I don't like the material.
You don't?
Yeah.
Do we want to change it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. You know what?
I think it's a good chance to also explain the two icons over here.
Oh, the two very
Yes,
important buttons.
yes,
Okay, cool.
yes.
How about that? Let's do it. Okay. So now that we have this hanger, the problem is we're using this default material called if you select it, we'll see it in the details panel that it's called under materials for this spaceship hanger. It's called world grid material. And I don't like that. As Farhad said, it's too dark. It is very basic. And for the time being, until we go ahead and actually create the materials for our hanger, we can turn it to this white color so that it starts reflecting light even more, so that we don't get this pitch black dark areas. We get to see our hanger more clearly. So in order to bring in a material, of course, we already taught you in the first chapter? Yes. How to go ahead and actually use the starter content and go ahead and take a material and drag and drop onto a mesh. And that works. But we want to teach you guys, as Farhad said, these two very important buttons.
You will use them all the time.
All the time. So it's a good chance to learn it right now. There's two buttons. The folder with the magnify icon says, hey, whatever this material is, I want you to find it for me in the content drawer, because I have no idea where this is. I honestly don't. So click that icon and it pulls up your content drawer and it tells you, hey, it's right here in the engine content folder, basic shapes. When you bring in any basic shape, it comes with the basic shape material. So it's right here. Now, I want to go ahead and steal this. So yes, I can go ahead and drag it, drop it onto my model. Yay. But there's another button to do that. That's this arrow right here. So let's say I find this material, okay? I find it by going to this icon. I find it. As soon as I've selected it, I can then go to my hanger and then use the left arrow to bring in whatever is selected in my content drawer and apply it to my material. So boom. Do that, and boom, congratulations. You've now learned the two most important buttons in Unreal Engine 5. You're going to constantly use this when you're going around different windows. You can steal materials, meshes, and switch out things using these two buttons. So one to find the item in your content drawer, and the other to replace it with what is already selected in the content drawer. And just like that, you see light is reflecting even more with the white material, and we can see what's inside our hanger more clearly.
Okay. Congratulations, guys. The basics of modeling is finished.
Yeah, that's actually amazing.
Yeah.
Right? We've learned how to model out the basic shape of the hanger, and you guys probably can now create any sort of shape that you want. The next chapter, though, we're going to go deep.
Yes, we're going to talk about the advanced tools in the modeling tab.
Yeah.
See you there.